you said, we meet Nadine, a teenager who basically doesn't fit in from the time that she's real small and she has no friends, and her brother has everything.
Yeah.
He's good at video games, hand-eye coordination. He's the favorite of the.
She basically says he's a winner, and he knows
naturally.
it. Yeah, he's a natural winner, and
those people that are naturally good at everything they do.
But they don't have to try, really, and it just comes easy to them.
Mm-hmm.
But, even from that, second grade, she knows that.
Mm-hmm. And so she befriends Krista.
Yes.
Who, when they first meet, she says she was dressed like a small elderly gentleman.
Yeah.
That gets me every time.
Oh, that was a good one. Yeah, that was awesome.
Oh, man, the dialogue in this is so good. But, yeah, so Nadine and Krista, they become best friends when they're super young. And that lasts throughout, and then we meet them later on when she's probably looks about 13, and she's going through puberty and stuff, and basically her dad passes away.
Yeah.
And that creates that sets up the even more broken home, and kind of gives her that fuel for being angry the way that she is, or at least a lot of, so you can feel for her and you accept the way that she is, you know. And then we also meet at the top of the film Woody Harrelson's character, who is her teacher.
Yeah.
In fifth period, I believe his name is Mr. Bruner.
I think so. He's a history teacher.
Yeah. And his their rapport together is amazing.
It's awesome. Yeah, I wish I had a teacher like that.
Because he just kind of gives her shit the entire time, and he gives her weird advice.
Yeah.
Or it comes from a good place, but he's also teases.
He's like a sarcastic asshole that he loves you, he cares for you, but he says it in the worst way. He kind of shows it in the worst way just by There's a point where she kind of goes in and says she's going to kill herself, and we find out later why. But he's kind of just like, oh, I was writing my suicide note also when you happened to walk in. And she's just like, what? I think that kind of just sums up their type of relationship, which is awesome. It's
I feel like it's he's been there before, and he's kind of like, oh, been there, done that. Just get over it. I guess because he's been doing it for doing not just life, but being a teacher for so long that he
said 23 years. Yeah,
he's kind of immune to everything. He's seen everything already, And but like I said, their energy together is awesome. And it makes a lot of the film so much more better, too. Just the little things. It doesn't even necessarily really add anything to the story, but it gives it this ambiance, and a lot of the comedy and stuff is set up by those interactions, which I think is really cool. But after, like I said, after the dad passes, we fast forward maybe a few years, even further into the future. And so their mother goes out of town, and they kind of Nadine and Krista decide to get drunk and kind of hang out and party alone. Yeah. And then they come downstairs and they see the brother has invited, because he's popular. He's invited all his friends, and they're in the pool and
partying.
And Nadine is already kind of trashed, and she gets offended and tells everybody to get out and kind of talk shit to him, and he's like, "You're stupid. I'm not listening to you." Yeah. And anyway, they go back upstairs, and Krista, her best friend, comes back down the stairs, and her and the brother, Darius...
Yeah.
Or,
is it Darian?
Or Darian.
Yeah.
excuse me, and they kind of hit it off together, him and the best friend.
A little flirting going on.
And so we fast forward to the morning.
Yeah, when Nadine had passed out in the bathroom.
She wakes up hungover, obviously, and she goes to check on Darian, and she finds her best friend and him in the same bed together.
Ooh, yeah.
They got a little action
yeah.
that night.
Yeah.
They were feeling each other. So
good point.
This creates this
rift between this friendship
and the family as well. And after that, it kind of sends Nadine's character spiraling out of control for a while, much like most of us have, our breaking point around those years, whatever it may be. And she kind of forgives the Krista, the best friend, and she blames it on the brother. Calls him a pervert, what have you, stay away from my friends, etc., etc.
Yeah.
And she goes back to school thinking that Krista, it was just a one-time thing.
Yeah.
And then she figures out that they actually really do like each other, and then they start going out.
Yeah. And she basically kind of tells her best friend that, he doesn't really care about you. He's just, when something better and prettier than you comes along, you're just going to get tossed to the side, basically. Mm-hmm. And she's like, oh, no, it's not like that. And then she's like, oh, yeah, it is. Just wait. And then she's like, well, he just asked me to be his girlfriend and go to prom, in a couple of months. And then, so that's when she kind of realizes, oh,
she says, well, it's me or him. You need to pick one. You have to pick one.
Which is a horrible thing to say to a friend.
Yeah, it's not cool.
Yeah.
And so Krista says, you know what? If you don't want to be friends, then that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so Nadine's kind of left alone, which is where we find out that she has this kind of weird crush with this guy Nick that works. He goes to the same school, but they don't talk to each other.
Yeah.
But he works at the Pet Land.
Yeah.
The pet store that's in their town or whatever.
Yeah.
And she doesn't know how to approach him. Meanwhile, we have this other guy enter, Erwin.
Erwin, yeah.
Who's this awkward, kind of nerdy dude who is kind of mysterious too. We don't find out a lot about him till later on in the film.
Yeah. When you first get introduced to him, you can kind of tell that he's like really into her.
Yeah, yeah.
But he just awkwardly doesn't know how to talk to her, like many high school guys when they try to talk to girls. He's kind of like, oh, that's a cool jacket. And then there's this weird like delay, and then she's like, yeah, thanks. And where'd you get it from? That's cool. And then she's like, I don't remember. He's like, oh, that's cool. Like, and he just makes weird sounds and awkward. It's just really awkward. And it was really funny just to see that type of interaction going on. But yeah, continue on with the story.
Okay, so we meet Erwin.
Yes.
And they kind of befriend each other, but she doesn't really. I feel like she's kind of blind to the obvious signs that he's into her.
Yeah.
And she doesn't really look at him like that.
Mm-hmm.
So he's kind of stuck in the friend zone.
Yeah.
And they end up going on a kind of date, right?
They go to the carnival.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And he makes a move on her.
Yeah, and she's like, whoa.
On the Ferris wheel.
Yeah.
He tries to kiss her awkwardly, and she doesn't go for it.
Yeah, she freaks out. And then he just feels totally rejected. You can kind of tell. She's just like, whoa, what are you doing? Stop. And then he's like, oh, no, I kind of just thought, She's like, oh, no. And he's like, oh, okay, cool. And then it was kind of over. Like you said, he kind of just got thrown into deeper into the friend zone.
Yeah. That's true. But so then Nadine goes to the Pet Land.
Yeah.
And tries to strike up some weird conversation with this guy Nick, who has no idea who she is yet.
Yeah.
She says, "Oh, can you point me in the direction of the cat litter? Yeah. And he says, it's aisle 9, I think. And she's like, oh, you go to so-and-so school, right? And he's like,
sometimes.
Yeah. Like, oh, Mr. Cool.
Yeah, like, oh, yeah, I go to school sometimes, you know.
And she's like, oh, yeah. And then the tables turn and she becomes the awkward one.
Yeah.
And she's like, we don't talk, but I've seen you around and stuff, and I actually don't need cat litter at all.
She's like, I don't know why I said I needed cat litter. I just know they shit a lot, so...
Yeah, and I don't have a cat.
Yeah.
And he's just like, I like your shoes.
Yeah, she tries to talk more to him, and he's like, I gotta go. And then she's just standing there like, okay. Which was an awesome scene.
So, so she hits up Erwin again and realizes that his parents have money, and he's also a filmmaker.
Yeah.
Which is like she's kind of intrigued by, and they go over... They go over to go swimming, right?
I like when she says, "Oh, I wish you would have told me you were rich earlier." You know, when she first pulls up to his house, and he opens the door, and she's like, "Wow, you know, I wish I would have known you were rich."
Just kind of gawking at the house and
it's
how
a huge,
cool it is.
huge house. Yeah, that's when they go in the pool and they're swimming.
Oh,
right?
and she kind of teases him.
Yeah,
and she's like, "Oh, do you want to have sex?" And then she's like, "Oh, I'm just kidding."
Yeah. And he
says yes
because he's like, okay.
Yeah.
And then she's like, "Oh, I'm just kidding." And he's like,
she's like,
"Oh,
don't you know, like those moments where you think you just have to say something because it's like in the movies, it's a perfect moment, but then you don't really do it." And he gets really mad.
And he's like, "You don't say it to a man." She's like, "Oh, a man." Okay.
And but then they start.
He brushes it off.
And they start hanging out again.
Yeah.
And they have a good time. But then, so Mona, the mother, who Kira Sidgwick, she has a really good role in this too.
Yeah.
She plays the kind of this broken mom who is trying to juggle being a mom and trying to move on in her personal life too, and it becomes clear to the viewer that she's doesn't know what she's doing or how to handle this death of her husband. You know,
you can tell that she's really not really attached to the family, like mentally, kind of like
she feels lost.
Yeah, really.
In a lot of this. But anyway, Mona, her mother, and Nadine have a disagreement. The next morning, she's trying to drop her off at work, and she wants her to go around the corner or something so nobody sees who's dropping her off.
Yeah.
And Mona gets upset and says, "You know what? You're coming to work with me. I'm not going to be late because of you." And they end up in her office. She looks like she's a secretary or something.
Yeah.
And she says, "You know what? You're going to sit here for 8 hours, and I don't want you to say anything or do anything. You're just going to sit." And they get into this argument, and the mom throws out some jabs about the father and how her dad would be so disappointed in Nadine if he were to see how she's turning out now, and that's like the last straw.
It like sets her off.
And so she grabs the keys to the car, and she's obviously a minor at the time, and she steals a car.
Yeah.
And where does she go? She
goes to the playground, right? That's where she sends the text message.
Yeah, that's right.
Or Facebook message, whatever.
She goes to the playground, and she, in this kind of spur of the moment thought, she sends a dirty text message to Nick, the guy from Petland.
Yeah.
And she says, I want to give you head. I want you to suck on my...
He also wants you to suck on my tits. She's like, I want you inside me.
We can do it all in the Petland stockroom.
Yeah.
And at the end of it, she doesn't have the heart to press send, and she's like, "Oh, I sound like a psychopath. I can't do this." She has second thoughts, and when she tries to close out the message, she accidentally sends it.
Yeah.
And then she goes to Mr. Brunner for advice.
Yeah.
Which is awesome because all he tells her is to not worry about it, to kind of chill out, and everything will be fine and blow over. And he says, go get, you know what, take 5th period off and go get an ice cream.
Yeah.
And she says, can I have some money for
He's like, yeah, I want the change.
Yeah.
Which is, which is a really cool teacher moment. I think we need more teachers like that.
Yeah, an ideal teacher.
Yeah.
So